It wasn't about Pat Toomey last night. Okay, joining us now, Republican Senator from Pennsylvania, Senator Pat Toomey, and Democratic Representative from South Carolina and Assistant Democratic Leader, Congressman Jim Clyburn. Good to have you.
Jim Clyburn, you had a date.
Who was
a guy named Jim.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did that work out for you?
Oh, very well. You know, I have been sort of advising that we ought to be a little more civil on the floor. And so I wasn't doing much standing up last night, so I think that Jim may not have liked that too much.
Yeah. It was, Pat Toomey, you've been through a few of these as well, and the mood in there was just different. It was sort of flat, but another way to put that, respectful.
Not the end of the world.
Civil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Decent, and actually I was very heartened by what I saw in there.
I thought, you know, this president gives a great speech. He did last night. I thought his tone was good. I thought it was a good thing that people were sitting with members of the other party. I observed to Jim earlier, there was a little less of the jack-in-the-box stuff that we've become accustomed to, and I'm in favor of much less of that.
Well, which, by the way, and we've all heard this before, people are like, why do you guys do that?
Yeah.
You look so stupid.
Yeah.
So it may have been tougher for the president to deliver a speech, but it was actually good for Congress. Congress looked good last night, and you can't say that often.
No, it's a very hard thing to say.
It's a hard thing to say. So let's talk about specifics. We heard Jim Clyburn last night, coverage on NBC News, talking about how the numbers may not have added up.
No. Well, I don't think the speech was intended for that. That's what the budget is for. That will be coming up, and he made it very clear that in this budget, he will be laying out exactly how he thinks we ought to move on the things we talked about last night. But I think that he laid out some parameters for us to look at. He made it very clear that we've got to cut spending, but we must not do it on the backs of the vulnerable. Now, a lot of people want to hear the word poor, but the fact is he did use the word vulnerable, and it means the same thing to me. And so I look forward to working with my friends on the other side to get that done.
And Senator, I was struck last night by a president who too often has sounded like he just doesn't get it when it comes to economic growth, small business, the importance of empowering small business people. But last night, for about 80% of that speech, he sounded like somebody that was a local representative for the NFIB. And I mean that in the most positive way. Well, it sounded like he got it.
It did, and I will say there were a lot of specifics in his speech that give openings for Republicans to work with.
Give some good examples.
I would say consolidating government, court reform, streamlining and simplifying the tax code, new trade agreements, banning earmarks. You know, these are things that Republicans have championed for a long time. So if the president's willing to follow through on this, I think you'll find cooperation.
And in that, Pat, isn't that politically a good, I mean, weren't there some effective chess moves made in this speech?
I think the president is politically positioning himself away from Pelosi and Reid and what appears to be the left wing of the Democratic Party, and he sounds like a moderate Republican, quite frankly, a rhino.
I don't know, but I think really I'm saying
you said you know. That can't make you feel good.
I was just using your office now. Stuff in there.
So is he sounding like a moderate Republican, a moderate pro-business Republican?
He sounds like a pro-business Democrat to me. And moderate Republicans, moderate Democrats, who knows what the difference may be. In fact, it was George Wallace in a dime's worth of difference, isn't it?
Yeah, not a dime's worth of difference.
And let me just say, when Jim Clyburn is quoting George Wallace to defend Barack Obama, things have gotten pretty bad for Democrats.
They spiraled out of control.
Well, we've got a big tent here. But look, I've been saying that people are now seeing that President Obama that we all anticipated from the campaign. He came into office reacting to a crisis, and you really can't be your creative self when you got to respond to a crisis. Now, that's behind us, and he is now being the creative person that we know he is.
Jim, we got the big crisis in front of us, and that's the next question.
Well, that's what the creativity is about.
Pat Toomey, I was excited. I just say it. And I don't say I'm really excited about people getting elected, but I said I was excited about you getting elected. And then, of course, you came on afterwards and attacked me on the It makes me sad.
Not true.
But Pat Toomey, will you prove my faith in you was well positioned by telling me now the Social Security retirement age is going to have to go up. If you're under 50, you're not going to get it when you're 65. That Medicare spending has to slow down, maybe flatten out at 4 or 5% per year. Pentagon spending's going to have to be cut.
Leave it there.
That we're not going to balance the budget by cutting education, IT, and infrastructure.
Those categories are not big enough to get the job done. It's true. I have always said that the Pentagon cannot be sacrosanct. We've got to look, there's a lot of waste there. They will be the first to acknowledge that they're forced to buy things by Congress that they don't even want to buy. That's ridiculous, right?
That is insane.
On Social Security, I dedicated a whole chapter to the book that I published a year ago calling for profound reform of this program for young people. And that puts us on a sustainable fiscal
And that includes the retirement age going up.
It doesn't have to. No, that's one of the things you could put in the mix. You don't have to. There are a lot of ways you can do it, but you do have to address some of the fundamentals. The health care side of things, absolutely. I think states need to have a lot more flexibility with Medicaid, for instance.
Yeah.
So there's, you're right. The discretionary spending, and by the way, the president does worry me that he still wants to spend a lot of money. He's calling it investment now, but that means spending. And
Jim?
that's what they call the stimulus bill.
Hey, Jim, we Republicans know investment means bigger bureaucracy.
I think I might agree with Pat Toomey on this Social Security business. That's the first time I've heard a Republican say that we did not have to increase the retirement age to get it done. And I think that's true. Well, I'm going to read his book.
I want personal accounts for young people.
I'm going to read that chapter in the book.
Like everybody here at the table wants to win the future.
So does the president lead stronger than he was when he went in before he gave his Republican moderate speech?
He is in a much better position today. I think he's been getting there just before. Everybody said it happened at Tucson, but if you look at the numbers, the week before Tucson, his numbers have started to go up.
He took those Bush tax cuts. That's what drove him up.
There you go.
He bought into them.
Those are the Obama tax cuts.
All right.
You're right, Pat Toomey. Moving forward, what's next? What do you want him to do?
What is he? Well, he should come back. Let's get these agreements done. That would be good. That would be bipartisan. It creates jobs, and it shows him as not being captive by a small sub.